Hello and welcome to the FM Scout YouTube channel. I'm CurtyFM and this is the start of a new series called Tactic Tuesday, where every Tuesday we publish a video trying to recreate a real life tactic within Football Manager 2017. As you can see from the thumbnail, we're starting this series with Antonio Conte's 3-4-3 tactic that he is currently using at Chelsea to great success. Before I start this video though, I'd like to invite you over to my channel CurtyFM. I've just finished an Arsenal Let's Play series and I'm about to start a new save with my hometown team, Aldershot Town. So by all means come over, check it out. If you like what you see, hit subscribe, that'd be fantastic. But without further ado, let's start off with this video. So before I show you the tactic itself, there's a few key components I think that we need to build into this tactic. So the first thing is how important the wing back position is. Now, we want our wing backs to effectively act as wingers when we have the ball. They need to be high and they need to stay wide on up the pitch. But when we lose the ball, we need them to be dropping back quickly and forming a back five, effectively forming a back five with our three centre backs. The second key component is that we need a ball-playing defender. David Luiz is playing that role in real life and we're going to try and replicate that as best we can in this tactic. The third key component is that we want our wingers to sit narrow when we have the ball. Two reasons: one, to support the striker, and secondly, to create space for those wing-backs to get high and wide up the pitch. And lastly, we need our striker to make sure he drops deep to create space for those wingers once they do move narrow. We need players to follow key lines of movement to create space for other players to move into. So, without further ado, here is the tactic we've settled on. Now, it looks a bit weird on the screen, appreciate that, but there is a reason, there is rhyme and reason for why we've decided on the shape and the roles for each player. So we're going to run through that now. So we're going to start at the back. Courtois is just a standard goalkeeper. The only instruction we've given him is to distribute the ball to our ball-playing defender, which in this case is David Luiz. Why we've done that is because David Luiz is the best defender on the ball, and he does bring the ball out from the back and look for those sort of long-range passes at times. So having that ball-playing defender role is key to this tactic. Either side of him, we've got two standard central defenders. I haven't added any extra instructions to this role. I mean, in real life, the right-hand centre-back in most cases, Azpilicueta, does have a tendency to move slightly more into midfield than the other centre-back. However, in Football Manager, this is difficult to replicate without moving him into the defensive midfield strata, and I don't really want to do that because I feel like we'll be exposed down that side if we do. Then we move into the complete wing-back slots with Alonso on one side and Moses on the right. The reason I've set Moses as a complete wing-back attack is because Conte is the more defensive central midfield, so he'll be covering that area that Moses vacates when we have the ball, and if we lose the ball higher up the pitch, Conte, as a more defensive-minded central midfielder, will cover that space better. Marcos Alonso acts as a complete wing-back support, just getting up and down, basically. As we discussed in the key components, we want our wing-backs to be high and wide when we have the ball, but drop back almost as full-backs when we don't have it, to create a back five. And as we have our slightly more attacking central midfielder on that side, we've left him as a complete wing-back support because it still fills the brief of getting up and down the pitch, but he's slightly less attack-minded than Moses on the right-hand side. Our central midfielders, we've just left them as generic central midfielders. Kante is a defending midfielder. I think that suits him perfectly. Just winning the ball back in midfield, closing down players slightly more aggressively than the other central midfielder, and playing simple balls. He should have lots of options either side of him once he collects the ball, so I just feel that the central midfield defend role suits him best. Playing alongside him with the central midfield support role, I did toy with a box-to-box midfielder, but I didn't want him clashing with Hazard when Hazard sits slightly narrower higher up the pitch, so hopefully the player that fills that role will be intelligent enough to drop off if Hazard's occupying the space in front of him. And then we move into the front three. I have Hazard on as an inside forward support, but we've also told him that he can roam from his position and we want him to sit narrower He's one of the key components of this team in general. He's a very creative player, but he's also a very destructive player. So we essentially want him to do what he wants, but starting from that left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we have it set as an inside forward attack. Now, I could have gone for Ramdeuter for all you hipsters out there, but we decided to stick with an inside forward attack because we do want him to fulfill some defensive duties. But he is definitely the more explosive of the wide men. He'll get beyond Costa a lot more than Hazard, and he should be quite a big source of goals for us. And then moving on to Costa, it's really important that Costa drops deep to create space for these two wide men. So we've set him on as a deep line forward support. Now, we could have gone for a false 9, but we do still want him to act as a striker, and Costa is a powerful striker and will look to spearhead attacks, so there's not that much difference between a deep line forward and a false 9, but we just felt that he was slightly more suited to the role as a deep line forward. So in terms of team's instructions, we've gone for control. Chelsea are going to be favourites for most games and should look to control and dictate the play. The team shape, we've gone for structured, mainly because I want my central midfielders and central defenders to stay solid in the centre of the park. I don't want them bombing forward during transitional phases in case we lose the ball and then get caught out. We're only playing with 2 central midfielders, remember, whereas a lot of teams will play with 3. If one of them gets caught out, then we're massively exposed in the centre of the park. So we've gone with structured basically for that reason. In terms of team instructions, whip crosses, just because neither of our wide men, who hopefully will be on the end of a lot of these crosses, are particularly big, so we want them whipped along the floor so that they've got a chance of getting to them. Ultimately, they're very quick, so as long as their anticipation is on point, we should be able to score goals from whip crosses. No point floating crosses into like Eden Hazard or Pedro coming in at the back post. Now, the next 2 instructions kind of go hand in hand. We want to close down slightly more, so for that reason, we've pushed higher up. Chelsea haven't got the quickest back line, which could mean this could be a recipe for disaster. But if you want to close down more, you need to make the pitch smaller. So if as a team, as a unit, if you're all closer together, you can close down more and more effectively. Yes, you'll leave space in behind, but with decent defenders who are able to intelligently read the game, you should be able to cut off supply over the top. We're playing with a higher tempo because we want to play explosive football where we're countering the opposition, but also in possession, because our players are technically good enough to play a high tempo game. We're also playing wider because ultimately we can create overloads down the flanks with our wing backs and our inside forwards. So it makes sense to play down the sides rather than through the middle, where we're not playing with anyone particularly creative. I know Fabregas will feel that's supporting central midfield role occasionally, but you're asking a lot of him to control the entire game in a 2-man midfield if you start playing down the middle. So playing down the flanks is pretty important. So I just want to show you a couple of examples of the tactic in play, really. So we've just kicked off. As you can see, we're playing Man City here. We actually won this fixture 4-0. But I want to show you this Pedro goal. So we start with the kick-off for the second half. So Pedro plays it back to Luiz, to Terry, who then plays it out wide to Alonso. Now straight away, you can see that on both flanks we've actually created little overloads. Alonso has the ball, Hazard has come inside. They've already created a 2-against-1 situation. So we'll let it carry on. Alonso plays it to Hazard, who comes inside to Pedro, and we actually lose it here. Otamendi picks it up and then plays it to Zabaleta. But what you can see straight away is that Alonso on the left-hand side and Moses on the right-hand side have already dropped back to effectively create a back 5, which is exactly the behaviour that we want from our wing backs. I'm going to let it carry on. Zabaleta plays it to Silva, who tries that ball over the top. We discussed having the higher line might leave us susceptible to balls over the top. However, we've read it really well there. Silva's tried to play the ball in behind. David Luiz has dropped back, covered that area, picked up the ball, and now we're in possession again. So he plays it into Kante, to Fabregas, out wide to Moses, who, even though we lost the ball there, had already moved quickly up on that right-hand side. And now Hazard plays the ball over the top, and then a bit of pressure leads City into a mistake, and Pedro finishes it off. Now, it's not the greatest goal, but it does highlight a lot of what we discussed in our key components to building this tactic. Okay, the next goal I want to show you is a Batshuayi goal in the EFL Cup away to Bournemouth. We're going to start with Courtois about to clear the ball. As you can see, our wing backs, Azpilicueta on the right hand side and Marcos Alonso on the left hand side, they're already starting to move high up the pitch. The back three are in a line. The keeper can't distribute it to David Luiz as we'd like because Callum Wilson is pressing him quite high up the pitch. So instead he goes long to Oscar. We're just going to let this run. So the ball reaches Oscar, who has to go back to Ivanovic. Azpilicueta is playing as the right wing back in this case. Releases the ball, loses out. Now, after Oscar plays it into Batshuayi, when I initially saw this, I thought to myself, I'd like Hazard to be slightly closer to Batshuayi. But actually what he's done is he's occupied this number 12 fullback and created a channel for Batshuayi to run at the defender, run at this number 3 defender, Cook, which he does to great effect, beats his man and finishes it nicely. I've seen a few other interpretations of this tactic where they have the wide men starting a lot narrower up the pitch. Had we done that Batshuayi goal would not have been possible because Hazard would have been a lot closer to him, therefore the channel that he ran into would not have existed. So I think it's important that we start with the wide men actually wide and moving inside from that position. The last goal I want to show you is an Eden Hazard goal against Swansea. Just again another example of the wide men pushing forward, the wingers cutting inside to create space for the wide men, and then just look how narrow the wide men finish up just as the goal scored. So we start with Hazard with the ball on this sort of inside left position. He cuts inside, plays it to Fabregas, who spreads the ball nicely out to Moses. And now you can see that we have Willian occupying Taylor, Hazard and Pedro in the middle. Willian flicks it on, Hazard finishes it at the far post, but look how narrow the front three are once the goal's scored. It's exactly the behaviour that we wanted from our front three. So I just wanted to show you how this tactic's going so far in terms of results. We've just at the end of October, we've played 10 league games. We have just moved top. Obviously we've played a game more than a few of the teams behind us. Our record so far is 1-7 drawn, 1 lost 2. I'm just going to show you the fixtures and how those have played out. We actually lost the first 2 games of the season. Now, I put that partly down to the fact that the players would not be familiar with this tactic once we started the season. What I've actually done is holidayed to this point. So I've not actually been in charge of any of these games. All I've done is set the tactic, set some of the key players in their roles, and asked the assistant manager to play as I've instructed. So as you can see, the first 2 games we lost. 1-0 at home to Watford, quite embarrassing start to the season, and then we've lost away at Everton, which is no shame in that really, but it's gone well since then. We've beaten West Brom at home, beaten Swansea away, had a really good result 4-0 against Man City, drew with Hull away, we've beaten Tottenham at home, another big team that have been dispatched. Stoke we taught a lesson to at Stamford Bridge. We've beaten Middlesbrough and we've also beaten West Ham, another tough game away from home. So it's going okay at the moment. I've actually stopped it here, partly because the squad have turned on me slightly. Apparently Azpilicueta's unhappy because he wants to leave and the morale's dropped, so I kind of expected the results to start going against me. So I thought now would be a good time to stop the simulation and try and sort out what's going on in the squad. But yeah, this is no super tactic, so don't expect to just download the tactic, plug it in and expect to win the league by 30 points every year. That's not the case. In Football Manager 2017, I don't think there is such a thing as a super tactic. What this is my interpretation of the Conte 3-4-3 system. And so far, I think it works pretty well. But please, by all means, let me know what you think about the tactic. Let me know if there are any roles you'd change. Let me know if there's anything you'd change about the team instructions. This is a discussion after all. This is a subjective view. I'm open to being criticised for my choices, so please let me know if you disagree with anything I've done here. However, if you like the video, make sure you hit that like button. It's really, really appreciated when you do. If you're new to the FM Scout YouTube channel, why not subscribe? There's some fantastic stuff coming up. This series is going to be running every Tuesday, but we've also got some other Really, really good content creators producing some excellent videos for you all. Before I go, I just want to direct you to the FM Scout website. There's some fantastic stuff over there. There's tactical guides, graphics downloads. It really is a one-stop shop for all your Football Manager needs. And as I said before, feel free to come over to my channel, CurtyFM, and if you like what you see, subscribe over there as well. But that's all from me. I'll see you next time. Ta-ta for now.